the first part 3 times and then play the chords afterward.
Filmed for a minute because it was not considered anything interesting at that moment. It was just other things we were working on we thought were way more interesting.
Beethoven, bum, 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 bum. And I thought, play that backwards, put something to it, and you've got bum, 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 bum.
The electric guitar is an instrument of contradictions. It has the power to seduce or to intimidate, to lull you into reflection, or pull you headlong into chaos. In the right hands, a riff can become more than a string of notes. It can summon images, emotions, entire movements. A great riff doesn't just hang in the air for a moment and vanish, it lodges itself in your bones, becoming a permanent fixture of the cultural fabric. Guitar riffs have defined albums, careers, and genres, and when we look at the best of them, it's impossible not to see the echoes of something larger: rebellion, transcendence, or defiance of convention. Here, in a carefully curated countdown, are the best guitar riffs ever recorded, as voted for by readers of Guitar World. At number 10, Enter Sandman by Metallica opens the door to this list with the slow, creeping tension of a bad dream taking form. The opening riff is deceptively simple. Built around palm-muted notes that tap into the primal. We weren't trying to make it complicated, James Hetfield explained. We wanted something that would just feel right. A riff that stayed with you long after you'd heard it.
You know, like Sandman, for instance. Then the verse is, you simplify the riff so the vocal has its place to jump around.
It does more than stay. It haunts. As the muted plucks give way to the full-blown riff, the song erupts like a nightmare reaching its climax. Hetfield's downpicking anchors the riff, creating a relentless chug that is both claustrophobic and exhilarating. It's a riff that's been imitated, covered, and absorbed into the DNA of heavy metal itself, but the original still holds a kind of dark magic that remains untouchable. Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name takes the number 9 spot, a reminder that music can be as much a force for social upheaval as it is entertainment.
They use force to make you do what the deciders have decided you must do.
Tom Morello's riff isn't flashy, but it's hypnotic. Built around a driving, repetitive phrase that feels like it's tunneling into your brain, it operates as the perfect backdrop to the incendiary lyrics that follow. I wanted to create something that sounded primal, raw, Morello once said. There's no embellishment, just pure groove.
And I was teaching some local rocker how to do drop D tuning. I will not bore you with what that is, but anyway, it's just sort of, it's a way that this guitar sort of sounds a little bit different. And in showing him how it kind of reconfigured the fretboard, I came up with that riff. Boom, doo da chicka da na now now ba da. And I said, hold on one second.
What makes it so powerful is that it's more than a riff. It's a call to arms, a symbol of resistance that's been chanted by countless crowds at protests and concerts alike. Morello's riff isn't merely played, it's demanded. It forces attention, commands movement, and refuses to let you sit still. Sliding into 8th place is Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, a riff that's become so iconic it now transcends the song itself. Jack White didn't set out to create an anthem when he stumbled upon those 7 notes. It was just something I played on a lark, he said, but Meg White immediately said, that's it. The riff is minimalism at its best, simple enough to be played by beginners, yet hypnotically effective in its execution. Played on a semi-acoustic guitar through an octave pedal, it mimics the power of a bass line, but carries the authority of a lead riff. The brilliance lies in its ability to evoke grandeur with so little. It's been chanted in stadiums, covered by symphony orchestras, and looped endlessly by street buskers, each performance a testament to how deeply it's embedded itself in popular culture.
The more people don't know where it came from, the happier I am. The more it just becomes, ubiquitous. And I'm sure many people are chanting the melody, have no idea what the song is or where it came from or why or whatever. It doesn't matter anymore, and that's just amazing.
Number 7 belongs to Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, an odyssey of a riff that isn't designed to be flashy or technically overwhelming. It's meant to transport you. It's hypnotic. Jimmy Page said of the altered tuning riff, "It's about creating a sense of movement, like a journey." The riff, played in dadgad tuning, is anchored by a repetitive, droning quality that pulls you in like an incantation.
To Headley Grange to get John Bonham in the big hallway there and get this huge drum sound and then start doing this riff with him. It was just P and I that were doing this. Kashmir, we just played it over and over and over, this sort of riff, this round, because that's what it is. He loved it. Yeah. He loved it, you know, because it just became like a trance thing. It was superb.
Beneath it, John Bonham's thunderous drumming surges like waves crashing against cliffs. The magic of Kashmir lies in its restraint. Page could have filled the space with flourishes, but instead he lets the riff breathe, creating a sense of inevitability. It doesn't just play, it unfolds, pulling listeners deeper into a musical landscape that feels vast, almost cinematic. At 6, Paranoid by Black Sabbath delivers a riff that is stripped down to its bare essentials, yet no less impactful for its simplicity. Tony Iommi's power chords are the very definition of no-frills guitar work, but that's what makes them so effective. The riff doesn't meander or dazzle, it drives straight into the heart of the song like a sledgehammer. Iommi, who famously lost the tips of 2 fingers in a factory accident, adapted his playing style to accommodate the physical limitations, resulting in riffs that are direct and heavy. That riff was almost an afterthought, Iommi admitted. "We needed something quick and it just came together." Quick or not, its influence has been anything but fleeting.
All the riffs I'd done, I always tried to make them big and powerful. Because we were only a 3-piece, you know, like musically, you know, we had, and then Ozzy never played an instrument, so we had to make it as big as we could.
The riff helped cement Black Sabbath as pioneers of heavy metal, a genre that would owe much of its early identity to Iommi's relentless guitar work. In 5th place, Back in Black by AC/DC is pure rock and roll swagger distilled into a few bars. Malcolm Young, the unsung hero of rhythm guitar, crafted the riff alongside his brother Angus. It's a deceptively simple combination of power chords and bluesy licks, but the groove is unmistakable. "We weren't trying to reinvent anything," Angus Young said. "We just wanted to make a riff that felt good to play and felt even better to hear." It does exactly that.
Been sitting on that throughout the Highway to Hell tour, you know, just backstage, tuning up, just sitting in the dressing room and just said, "How's this sounding?"
You know, and I said, "Hey, Mel, it sounds great to me." I said, "If you don't like it, I'll have it." I'll say I wrote it.
Strutting with the confidence of a band that had just overcome the tragic death of original frontman Bon Scott, the riff became a symbol of resilience, of rock's ability to overcome adversity and return stronger. Its influence isn't confined to classic rock stations, it lives on in dive bars, arenas, and anywhere else a guitar is plugged in and turned up. 4th place brings us to Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child, Slight Return, a riff that seems to defy the laws of time and space. Hendrix wasn't just playing a guitar, he was conducting a séance. The riff, built around wah-wah soaked bends and slashing chords, is as fluid as it is fiery. "I never approached the guitar thinking about technique," Hendrix once said. "It was about emotion, about telling a story." That's precisely what this riff does. It tells a story of exploration and power, of freedom and chaos.
I can't practice this. It's always constantly, what do you call it, like a jam, you know. it's hard for me to remember any notes because I'm constantly trying to create other things. That's why I make a lot of mistakes.
Hendrix's command over dynamics is unparalleled. The riff can be a whisper one moment and a roar the next, shifting effortlessly between tension and release. It's the sound of an artist pushing boundaries, not just of the guitar, but of what music could be. At number 3, Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana brings us to the grunge revolution of the early 90s, when a riff could change the world. Kurt Cobain's 4-chord progression is as gritty as it is melodic, capturing the angst of a disillusioned generation. "I wasn't trying to write an anthem," Cobain said, "but it kind of became one anyway." The riff's power lies in its imperfections, the slightly off-kilter bends, the raw distortion, the sense that it could unravel at any moment. It encapsulates the DIY ethos of grunge, a reminder that music didn't have to be polished or pristine to resonate. It was rough around the edges, and that's exactly why it worked. Second place is held by Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple, a riff so universally recognized that it's often the first thing aspiring guitarists learn. Ritchie Blackmore's descending, staccato riff is simplicity itself, but within those few notes lies an irresistible hook. "I didn't think much of it when we first wrote it," Blackmore admitted. "It was just something that fit the song." But fit it does. Perfectly.
I originally wrote it like that, with a kind of but that didn't kind of go down with the others at the time, so we kept it to the
Written after a fire burned down a concert venue during a Frank Zappa performance, the riff carries an urgency that mirrors the chaos of its inspiration. It's a riff that feels inevitable, as though it's always existed and Blackmore simply discovered it. Finally, at number 1, we arrive at Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love, a riff that doesn't just demand attention, it takes it by force. Jimmy Page's sliding, blues-infused riff is primal, dripping with sensuality and menace. "I wanted it to hit you in the chest," Page said. "It wasn't about showing off, it was about feel." And that's precisely what it delivers. The riff is simple, but its power lies in its execution, in the way each note is bent and dragged, creating a sense of tension that never quite resolves. It's the sound of rock and roll at its most elemental, where lust and danger intertwine.
A Whole Lot of Love is like, it's a classic riff of all time, and the great thing about Whole Lot of Love is the fact that when anyone plays the riff of Whole Lot of Love, you know, it just brings a smile to people's faces, and there's a feeling of elation in them. It's not something that they go, "Oh my God, how awful!" It's total opposite.
Absolutely.
And it's the whole exploration of riff music is it just doesn't stop all the way through Led Zeppelin, because it's right there from the beginning of it. And I mean, the nucleus of that, I'd say, goes right back to Chicago blues. But you know, in the 50s, this great blues movement and all these sort of riffs, and that's really sort of my point of reference to like these thick, dense riffs.
These riffs have become more than music. They are artifacts of cultural memory. They've been played in bedrooms, garages, stadiums, and on stages that defined history. Each one is a testament to the guitar's ability to transcend mere sound and become something larger, an anthem, a movement, a legacy. As long as guitars are plugged in and played, these riffs will continue to echo.